God bless everyone and welcome to this debut of what's essential to you in your life. This is your voice, your vote. You know what's going on in the world's climate today. And, my name is Superintendent Ethan B. Sheard from the Greater Mitchell Temple Church of God in Christ. And my pastor is my dear father, the Bishop John H. Sheard. What a legendary man indeed. We thank God for him. We thank God for all that he's contributed to our lives and to the community. And we want to keep this community alive and rolling. You can participate this year. It's so very important that we vote. The climate out there says that they don't want us to vote. It doesn't matter if we vote, but it's so important. There's so many things that we have to learn, but it starts with us voting. If we don't vote, we are irresponsible. Let me just give it to you straight. I'm sure somebody's going to type in something refuting what I just said, but it's our responsibility to vote. And if we don't vote, we let things happen. We don't have any voice when we don't vote. We don't have anything to say. It's been said that our vote doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Whatever happens is going to happen, but every little bit counts. I'm telling you, my dad used to tell me so long ago, we didn't pick up pennies. We don't want a penny. My dad reminded us that pennies add up to dollars and dollars add up to hundreds of dollars and so on and so forth. So every little penny counted at that time. So we're saying to you, every vote counts. When you're old enough to vote, you should be rushing to register because it's so essential that you participate in every level of government. And in order to do that, you've got to vote. Listen, we've invited some guests on to participate in helping me express how important it is for us to vote. And if you would sit with us, don't leave us. You can text and you can share and tag other people in this program, however you want to do it. But it's so important that this gets out to everybody. Now, we're stationed in Detroit, Michigan. This is our home place. But this is going out all across the country, and it applies to everybody. We don't want you to think just because we're talking from Detroit, we're talking only about Detroiters, because I have some statistics here about states all around the country, battleground states, and we'll talk about that a little later. But my first guest is going to come on, and he's such an important person because he has the know-how, and he's right in the center of what's going on as far as election is concerned. He is the deputy city clerk for the city of Detroit. And he's going to come on, Brother Andre Gilbert. He's going to come on and talk to us at this time and give us some tips and ideas. And I'm going to ask him some questions. And I think some of you will have some questions. And we'll be able to just go back and forth with him in order to get all the way down to it. So at the end of our conversation, there will be no excuse for not voting. It's that important. God bless you, and thank you for joining us, Brother Gilbert. How are you today? You got to unmute yourself, sir. Unmute yourself.
How you doing? Thank you for having me.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. You are the deputy city clerk to Miss Janice Winfrey, who is our friend. She's a devoted public servant that is in the trenches even now, making sure our votes are appropriate and lined up. And then she gave you permission to come on to talk because she thought it was that important. She was going to come, but she sent you instead because she still got her boots on in there swinging and putting things together to keep this election appropriate. Come on, tell us a little bit about what you do and how what's at stake this year.
I can tell you one thing. I just left the clerk and she's still at the Department of Elections processing those ballots. So That's why she asked me to come on with you tonight. But so my name is Andre Gilbert. I am the deputy city clerk of the city of Detroit, newly appointed. The clerk appointed me to this position late last year. So this is my first general election in this position, and it's a big one. It's a big one. It's an important one, of the biggest of my lifetime, and I would say a lot of ours. Mm-hmm. So I've been with the clerk for a good 10 years. In various positions, starting at a receptionist on up to the position I'm in now. She has faith in me. I have faith in our city. And what we're trying to do is push people to these polls.
Okay, that's great. Now listen, tell us, there are some statistics out there. I don't know if we want to go through it. Let's do this first. Tell us, see if you agree with me. And I might be a little out of your area, but I'm gonna pull you back in here. It is what's at stake this year is the continued irresponsible handling of the COVID-19 virus. Now, this virus is tremendously terrible. It even took the life of my very own mom. I'm telling you, I was in the hospital with COVID. My mother and father, all three of us were in the hospital at the same time, and my mom didn't make it. And I'm telling you, it was such a tremendous blow to us to find out that the government knew about this earlier, and we could have done more things. But we're spiritual and we're God-fearing, and so we don't believe God makes any mistakes in the way he does things. So I don't want to get real spiritual because I can do that. I'll start preaching because that's what I do. But I just want you to know that it's so vitally important that we have information and where to find the information, and that the information is accurate and truthful. And we've got, I voted already. Let me just tell you what I did. And I picked up some pointers as I went along. I went down to the Department of Elections down on West Grand Boulevard, right across from the Fisher Building. Right. And I actually had my ballot mailed to me. Right. And once I got my ballot, my wife and I, we filled them out, my father as well. And we took our ballots back to the Department of Elections and put them in the drop box right in front of the Department of Elections. And we did that because of the propaganda and the rhetoric that's going on all across CNN, Fox News, etc., that they're interfering with the mail-in ballots. So I was encouraged and motivated to take my ballot to the ballot box, drop box, so I can make sure that my ballot was counted. Tell me how you feel about that.
You're absolutely right. We're living in unprecedented times. This pandemic, it hit us, and it hit us hard. One thing we did is we learned a lot in August. Once Corona hit, this virus hit, it showed us, it introduced challenges to us that we have never experienced before. One, recruiting our poll workers, training our poll workers, finding our buildings that were comfortable to open up during this pandemic. And the list goes on. So one thing that we did is we provided all of our precincts, all 503, with the proper protection equipment that they need, the sanitizers, the gloves, the mask. We even provided hazmat suits for our poll workers that want to feel that comfortable. They have it all. And the same for our voters that
he froze up a little bit on us, but here he is. He's back. Come on, Gilbert.
I'm sorry, this city connection isn't that strong, but
that's okay. You're here.
But the same to those voters that visit our precincts. So one thing we're encouraging people to do is vote from home or vote in one of our satellite centers. We are trying to limit what we would see in a general election on election day, which are those long lines, right, those crowds of people. Right. So you can visit one of our 23 satellite locations all across this city. They're open Monday through Friday, 9 a.m. to 6 p.m., Saturday and Sunday, 9 a.m. to 2 p.m. And we also have 30 drop boxes located all across this city. So just like you said, you can fill your ballot out at home, come to one of our voting centers and drop off that ballot, or you can vote in person absentee to ensure that your vote is counted and reached us in a timely fashion. We don't want to depend on the mail. We don't want to depend on others. So we're encouraging people to do this early and push people to do it now. The state recommends October 20th as the last day to mail your ballot in. We are pushing people to do the same. After that date, come drop it off.
Right.
Drop it off. Make sure it gets to us early and in time.
Right. Okay. That's wonderful. Now, one of the things I noticed, I took note of, that is that if you must do in-person voting either early or because the lines are starting to grow even in early voting. And I voted 3 weeks ago, and it was a line when I went to drop off my, at the drop box, So this makes us feel great, but we want to make sure everything is done appropriately. But what I noticed was even if you must do in-person voting, either early or the day of, it's good for you to print out your ballot ahead of time. Mm-hmm. And then make your choices and do your research about the proposals at home.
That's right.
If you do those at home, then when you get there in line, you can take that with you. And then it's just a matter, it's a 2-minute process then, as opposed to you standing in line, or once you get to the ballot box, you get there and then you have to read the proposal all the way through, and you got to get an understanding, you got to ask questions. When you could do all of that, what they say, do your homework, do it at home, so that when you get there, it's just a matter of checking off the boxes, and then you put your ballot in, and it makes it so, and watch this, it doesn't just make your time there brief, it makes the person behind you and the person behind them, their time in line brief, and they'll say, oh, wow. And then you can talk about how quickly it was, although the line was long, it was really quick. See, we heard about across the country, 3-hour-long lines. But, we gotta be proactive to the point where we make it easy for everybody to vote. And if you just do a little homework, I've had people calling me, hey, what do you think about this? What about this proposal? I'm not quite understanding this proposal. Make yourself available to help people, the elderly. If they got to help them so they understand what's going on. You don't tell them what to vote for because that's their selection. But if they don't understand parts of the proposal, you can explain it at home, and then you're ready to vote. You go in there, you stand in line about 10 minutes. I'm going to put 10 minutes on you. So you go quickly, you get in there and get out of there. What did you think about that?
That's absolutely right. You hit the nail on the head. So for our audience out there, you can visit our website, detroitmi.gov. The Department of Elections. And on that website, you will see a sample ballot, which will show you your partisan selections, your nonpartisan selections, and your proposals, right? So we have 3 proposals that will be on this ballot come November. One, you'll see your proposal N, which is on the local level. Then you'll see 2 state proposals. One is to allow the state to continue to receive funds from sales.
His connection is it's going to kick back in just a second. Give him a chance. It's going to kick right back in. There it is. Come on, man.
But one is to allow the state to continue to receive funds from sales of oil and gas, and the other is to extend the prohibition of unreasonable searches to people's electronic data and communications. Right. So do your homework. Do it early. You can visit our website to get that sample ballot. Also, we sent out a newsletter, our election connection, which we send out every election. Receive that, study it, and your process should be simple once you get to that poll. So you did your homework. You know who you know that candidate who has your best interest at heart, and that's who you vote for. Vote for that person that holds your interest at heart, and encourage others to do the same thing. That's what we want to see.
That's great. That's great. Now, one other thing I just wanted to make sure we may have touched it, but I want to make sure we touch it. It's very important. Some of the seniors a lot of seniors mail their ballots in, their absentee ballots in. I think Friday is the 19th, if I'm not mistaken.
Correct.
You should not. I want to make this emphatic. You should not mail your ballots after Friday because there's no guarantee that they'll make it there in time. That's so very important because we need you to vote. I just said at the beginning of this program, every vote counts, and it's so important. Now, I'm going to go through a couple of statistics here so we understand how important it is. In Detroit, in Michigan, in the 2016 election, the difference between the candidates was 11,000 votes. That was the difference between the candidates, 11,000 votes. And hold on to your chair, hold on to wherever you're listening to me, because in Detroit alone, not the state of Michigan, in Detroit, there were 277,000 African-American registered voters that didn't vote. Oh, I want that to sink in a minute. 277,000 that didn't vote. The difference between the two candidates was 11,000. Let that sink in, because that's so important. You're saying your vote doesn't count. 11,000 votes compared to, I mean, half of the people that were registered that didn't vote. If just half of them voted, you tilt the election. But we gotta do our part. I used to coach basketball, and I did it for like 17 years, okay? And they always wondered why you have, the 15th player on your team. Well, a lot of times, a lot of your best players start off as the 15th player. And when they get in, they run just as many suicides. They do just as many drills as the number one player. But they're part of, oh man, you're going to make me start preaching, bro, Gilbert. They are part of the team. And if we don't have everybody functioning as a team and doing the same thing at the same time, then we are lacking. That's like having a car with 3 wheels. You say, I got 3 wheels already, but you need 4. You need 4. And it's just not working. We can't operate. That car is not going to operate. Pistons, there are a lot of pistons. If one piston is out of throw, this old big luxurious car is not going anywhere with one piston missing. And it's about that big. That's how important it is. Go ahead, Brother Gilbert.
You're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. And we're expecting for this to be the biggest, like I said, the biggest election of our lifetime.
That's
the
right.
biggest turnout, right?
That's right.
In 2016, we had a turnout of about 48.5% of Detroit that went out to vote. Mm-hmm. This election, we're looking at well over 50%. We're looking at over 200,000 absentee ballots.
Wow.
We're looking in August, to put that into perspective, right? In August, we had 80,000 ballots that we had to count. We're looking at over 200,000 right now. We've already mailed out 140 ballots already. Wow. We're still 3 weeks from today. 3 weeks from today is election day.
Right.
We have 3 weeks to receive more ballots. 3 weeks for you and others to visit our satellite centers and vote. We're looking at 200,000. That's the most, and
yeah, that's record breaking.
That's record breaking right there.
Right.
So again, one, we're encouraging people to come out. We're encouraging people to engage in the process.
Mm-hmm.
Engage in the process. Don't just vote. Learn. Right.
Yes.
Work. We're looking for poll workers. Right now, we have reached our limit, which is 10,000, but we're still looking for those reserves.
Okay.
Those reserves. So still visit our website, sign up to be a poll worker. Because don't just vote, engage in the process. Right. See what happens behind the scenes and push others to do the same. Because each one teach one, each one reach one, right?
Right.
And that's what we need to do. Right. Push people to the polls, push people to engage in the process.
My man. Well, Brother Gilbert, man, you are so educated in this area, and I appreciate you. Again, we've got, if you put up that polling where the put up the Department of Elections if you got that address there on the boulevard, because, when all else fails, you can go straight there and you can drop that off. And I know I did that I was happy to drop off my ballot because I want to be a part of the process. And then we're going to talk about the midterms a little later on in this conversation. But again, I want to remind you, vote. You can vote now. Vote early. Vote early. Do not wait till election day. Vote early. It's available to you. Let's take advantage of what the clerk's office has made available to us. And she's doing a tremendous job in keeping us above board and keeping us on track. And there's the address to the Department of Elections. You can shoot down there. It's right across from the Fisher Building, just just west of Woodward Avenue. That's right. So be sure you get down, put your vote in. We need you to vote. I can't say that. I've been preaching every Sunday and I've been saying it. We talk as a section. I say we've got to vote every time. Now there's a website there. I think is it there? Yeah, there's a Department of Election, but there's also a website where you can go to register and vote at the same on the same day. Is that correct?
That is yes and no. So in 2018, there's a proposal on a ballot that passed, Proposal 3, which allows voters or allows people to register to vote on the day of the election. So I'm glad you touched on that, because October 19th is the last day you can mail in your registration and register online. After October 19th, you must visit one of our offices, our satellite center, or the Secretary of State's office in order to register to vote. And on election day, you can only register to vote at the clerk's office, Department of Elections, or one of our 23 satellite centers. You cannot vote. You cannot register at your precinct, not at your precinct. It must be one of our 23 satellite centers, our department, or our office, which our satellite centers are an extension of our office. So I'm glad you touched on that. I also want to encourage people to visit our website, which was just up there, and call us. We have an absentee hotline, 313-876-VOTE. So 313-876-VOTE is our absentee hotline, where you can call us. You can find out the status of your absentee ballot. You can have us mail you an application or the like. So just want to throw that out there.
There it is. Okay, we look forward to voting. It's so important. And Brother Gilbert, I appreciate you taking out time. I know you guys are busy, but hey, anything we can do to help make things go easier for you, don't hesitate to give us a call. We're here to help make the process perfect. All right? God bless you, man, and thanks for coming on.
God bless you. Thank you.
Yes,
Thank you again for having me.
Yes, sir. Brother Gilbert is all right with me. He gave us just a lot of pertinent information. So we're looking forward to getting our votes in early. Now, to those across the country, I brought up the statistic about Detroit and in the two candidates in 2016, but I also want to bring up the statistic about other states that are battleground states. They're calling them battleground states. In Wisconsin, the difference between the two candidates in the 2016 election was 23,000 votes. 23,000 votes was the difference. And I'm just talking to my African-American brothers, because in Milwaukee alone, not the whole state of Wisconsin, but just in Milwaukee, there were 93,000 registered Black voters that didn't vote. So 23,000 was the difference, and 93,000 was the ones that didn't vote. We gotta flip that over. We gotta flip that. We look at somebody and say, flip it over. We need 93 voting, huh? And 23, but we want them to vote too. All right, now let me go down here. Florida. If you go to the state of Florida, these seem to be battleground states. The difference in the two candidates was 113,000 votes. In Miami alone, 379,000 Blacks, African Americans, didn't vote. 379,000? And it's only by 113,000 votes was the difference in the two candidates. Then I got to jump down here to Pennsylvania, another battleground state. I'm sorry, I got to give you all these stats. I'm going to give you these stats again once we get going. But the difference in the two candidates in Pennsylvania was 44,000 votes, 44,000 votes. And you can see it there on the screen. And in Philadelphia alone, the brothers and sisters, 238,000 of you didn't vote. We got to stop this. We can't see, when we don't vote, we don't have any voice. You can't say nothing to me if you didn't vote. If you didn't vote, if you didn't participate in what's happening, it's hard for me to hear you because you're not even involved. You got to participate. And all of you have, all you got to do is register. All you got to do is register. They will allow you to vote. All right, it's very important. I think I got one more statistic. Yep, in Georgia. Come on, in Georgia, the difference between the two candidates was 211,000 votes. And in Atlanta, come on, Atlanta, I want to hear from you. Come on, Atlanta. In Atlanta alone, there were 530,000 blacks that didn't vote. Wow. Come on, man. We got to do better than this. I mean, we only vote every 2 years. Every 2 years. Come on, man. We can get out there and vote because we got to get involved in the midterms as well. The midterms, we got to deal with our senators, our congressmen, our congresswomen. We got to deal with our school board. We got to deal with the judges. It's the mayoral, the gubernatorial. I'm going to tell you something about the gubernatorial in Michigan. I'm going to tell you right now. Our last governor didn't even campaign. This ought to be an insult to you, Detroiters. I hope this is it. He didn't even campaign in Detroit because he knew that you weren't going to vote. So your vote didn't even matter. He wasn't even trying to get your vote because he knew you wasn't going to vote. And he was right. You didn't vote and he won. You got to make the difference. You shake the trees. Let's get going. Let's make them hear what we got to say. When we put the people in place that we want, we'll make them listen to us. But come on, I got to move on in our schedule here. Now, we want to talk to, this segment is about your voice. And I want to talk to my brother, Ramone Crowe. I'm not sure if he's here yet, but brother Medvis Jackson. There's brother Ramone, my man, brother Ramone. Is the president of Ramone Crowe and Associates LLC, and brother Medvis Jackson is the co-founder of Roll to the Polls. God bless you, both brothers, and I love what you're doing. Come on, speak to the people. Just greet the people for me.
I'll defer to Mr. Crowe.
Okay, brother Crowe.
I want to greet everybody and say I appreciate the opportunity to get the word out about how passionate and how important it is to vote, not just in this election, but like you were saying, every 2 years, we need to do our civic duty and get out and vote. And this gives us an opportunity to talk about, I'm a member of the great fraternity Alpha Phi Alpha, and we can talk about some of the initiatives that we're working on to get more people out to the polls and energize the base, because we really need, doesn't matter what party you're on, you need to execute your civic duty.
All right. Brother Medvis, Roll to the Polls. What is that all about?
So in the 2018 midterm election in Georgia, there was a gentleman who his name is, I can't his name, but his whole initiative was, I can drive around my neighborhood and get folks to vote. And so he rented out a vehicle from the local mortician, like something used for a funeral, limousine, and he drove around his neighborhood and picked up his friends, take them to the polls. And this was covered in the New York Magazine. So my colleague Jim Hayes, the gentleman's name is Royce Reeves, and so my colleague Jim Hayes saw this article in the New Yorker and was like, well, what if we did something like this in Detroit? What if we use transportation as a way to help to make the voting process one that's more equitable? So in the city of Detroit, you have about 30% of families lack regular access to a vehicle. And then within that, for folks who ride the bus, their bus rides can often, to get to work in the morning and maybe to drop off kids, it can also often involve at least 2 transfers or 1 transfer, making that like an hour-long process. And so, for folks who do want to vote, it can be really difficult logistically in the city of Detroit. And so what we've been working on is transportation, information, and other forms of equity. Like this last Saturday, we had a cookout to get people to get registered. So in addition to scheduling out rides to the polls, we've also been doing voter registration, so folks have the ability to vote if they choose to.
Wonderful. What a brilliant idea to try to, and it's good for us because, while I'm making this plea for people to come vote, I'm not understanding necessarily the circumstances of why they don't vote in many cases, not always. And, I'm one to, listen. It's not always I didn't want to vote or I didn't care about voting. Sometimes is, I can't get off my job. They won't let me off, or I don't have transportation, or whatever the case is, But we're going to have to struggle if it takes that. And Brother Medvis is providing a service that will help us make it happen. So, we're going to provide you with his number so we can schedule things to get you to the polls. And we've got protocols so you don't have to worry about COVID. We're wearing our masks all the time. We believe in the science. And the science says if you wear your mask, if you stay 6 feet apart, and if you frequently wash your hands, that you can reduce the chance of you getting the virus. Now that other side, the far right is right when they say it doesn't completely knock it out. But I think it'll do better than me just walking around willy-nilly thinking I'm immune to it, So, go ahead.
To add one more thing, voting in the United States is incredibly difficult. So take, for example, the country of France. They vote over a weekend, right? So you have 3 days of weekend voting, right? And so their voter turnout is going to be much higher than the U.S. because we put ours on a Tuesday from about 8 to 8, like during business hours. So, we're really grateful that the city clerk's office has created a network of satellite centers that you can vote early on. Just understanding that for folks who do want to vote in person, some people want to vote in person because they don't want any sort of delay in the counting of their ballot, or they don't want one candidate to say that, oh, you saw the big swing in voters at the end, it was rigged, it was fake. But for folks who want to vote early, you can. But just understand that, it's incumbent on a lot of community leaders to really understand what are the barriers for folks voting. In some cases, that's transportation.
Mm-hmm. That's great. Brother Ramone, it looks like you wanted to say something there.
Yeah, I wanted to talk about what we're doing in Alpha Phi Alpha, specifically TZL. We created a website called ivote2020.net, which gives a lot of information about how to vote, the voting process. And it also, like what I'm wearing now, I have a shirt, Black Votes Does Matter. We are also selling merchandise to raise funds to increase voter awareness. And one of the things that we find is, we talk about the vote. We say that elections are important. The saying now is elections has consequences, but do we really understand what those consequences are? Before I got on, you were talking about a lot. You provided a lot of statistics, which were very important. If you will allow me, I'd like to give a real important statistic on why it matters.
Okay.
Policies are the reason that we vote. Whether you vote or not, these policies will still govern your life. The presidential election, just like state and local elections, they have people that are appointed in their administration. To give you an example, we always talked about the wealth gap. The wealth gap that Blacks are suffering from started because of federal policies. To be specific, is in 1935, they created the Federal Housing Administration. The person who ran the Federal Housing Administration was an appointee of the president. And as we know, housing is how wealth was generated in this country. But do a lot of people know that the Federal Housing Administration in 1935, and people say, well, that's a long time ago. Well, those times affect us today. And as we can see, some of those actions are still being tried to be applied today. There was laws in the manual, information in the manual that instructed banks not to sell to Blacks, to not give home loans to Blacks. So even specifically in Detroit, before they could even approve homes, they had to build a 6-foot wall between the Black community and the white community, and provided the white community loans and not the Black community. That's policy.
Yeah.
That's consequences of voting. So when you don't vote, then somebody can come in and put these policies in that not just impact you today, but that's 1935. We still feeling the impact today.
Still
that's
suffering.
Why we need to get out and vote.
Yeah. Yeah. We're still suffering from that, man. Go ahead, man.
To build on that a little bit, again, road to the polls is all about equity and access, right? And so the assumption is that for some people, it's a matter of they can't get to the polls. However, in canvassing and trying to get folks to our most recent cookout, voter registration, we have been able to interact with folks at least a bit. And one thing that folks kind of feel that in passing is that, once in a while people will remark, well, I don't really feel this is going to change anything. I'm not voting. Or they have a very cynical view on our political system. So a couple of things that changed in the 2018 election that we should be mindful of, and it affects all of us, right? So the legalization of recreational marijuana. I know some folks, especially church folks, really dislike that legislation. However, what it did was, in addition, if you want somebody to stop smoking weed, that's a different conversation. But it does prevent folks who are using it casually from really ruining their life with a criminal record. So that's huge for really marginalized communities. Another thing that changed was the kind of pushing against gerrymandering, where you could really create congressional districts so that it favors one party as opposed to just making a much more objective geographic districting. The last thing that passed in 2018 that's really important is automatic voter registration, same-day voter registration, which, there are states where it's incredibly hard to register after a certain deadline, or the deadline is very early. But in Michigan, because of the will of the people, we're really able to give people a lot more flexibility, allowing them more time to get registered to vote and to do stuff online.
Well, let me add to that. The fact that was able to even get on the ballot says a lot, because in other states they can't even get it on that, and it took us a long time to get it on the ballot. The fact that you can register, because it's so difficult, but it's based on who we got in the office to get that started. So, gerrymandering, we didn't even know anything about gerrymandering. It was just being done. And then the fact that, one side was getting over on the other side, somebody started digging into that. Well, this is why we got to keep up with what's going on, because we don't, I'll be honest with you, I didn't know about gerrymandering either. Mm-hmm. But when I saw that they said that they cut it out, they cut that district out like this. Come on, man, that's not how cut the district like that, and then you get a diverse group. But when you go in and out and across the street can be different districts all through the whole district. And so, I think it's very important that, you don't have to, read a telephone book worth of information, but you got to keep up with what's going on. You got to watch the news. The news, it gets boring sometimes, but you got to know what's going on and keep up with what's going on in your community. Brother Crowe?
Gerrymandering is very interesting, but something that we're in the Black community are very familiar with, that how policies impact us. And another important reason is to vote is called redlining. Right. We suffer from redlining. They set up projects and group Black people in an area where then they can just draw a circle around and then start make it a food desert. They can do whatever they want because they know by the zip code they can depress the schools. They can do so many things and this goes all the way back to 1935 by them not allowing you to move where you wanted to move. Right. They can keep you in the same block. So that's why it's so important to vote, because if you notice that, they try to, I think just in Texas, they're trying to limit voting locations in certain zip codes. And those zip codes are where people of color are. Right. So if your clerk is not doing the job, you vote that person out.
That's right. Go ahead, brother. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
One thing that I hear a lot is people complain a lot, and that's fine to complain, but bring a solution along with it. Right. And then along with the solution, bring some execution with you.
That's right.
Because a problem without a solution and nobody execute, it's just a problem.
That's it.
And for those who are interested in getting a ride to the polls or getting a ride for a loved one to the polls, again, you can reach me at 315-825-1874. But again, so on the housing piece too, something that we don't think about is the role of the census. Now, the census is not related to voting necessarily, but the deadline for the census is coming up. For example, the Housing Urban Development, they allocate grant funds based on population density. So Detroit in reality has an estimated population of about 800,000 people, but only 50% of those 800,000 actually complete the census. You're basically throwing away half of the money that HUD would allocate to your community, right? I think a lot of in the African American community, I think the women have been phenomenal in overall in getting their families to fill out the census and to also get to the polls, especially on Saturday when we were out. I saw a lot of folks who are of the baby boomer generation, some Gen Xers, but heavily baby boomers and also heavily Black women. I want to encourage Black men, get your census done. If you have a buddy who has children and he hasn't filled out the census, tell him, hey man, it doesn't take that long. Get that filled out because it controls the amount of dollars that your family's going to have for housing vouchers. If you would like to, move to a new place and get something that's affordable, it will affect the amount of money your children get for their public school, right? And so really encourage one another to really step up and handle our business, right? Handling your business is not just about getting to work in the morning or paying bills. It's also making sure that your government is handling its business for you. And so both the census and also voting on down ballot issues. It's not just about the president, right? There are issues on this ballot around should they have to get a search warrant to go into your personal data? That's on the ballot, right? Allocation for parks and recreation, that's on the ballot this year regarding tax dollars in Michigan. So these things matter, and it's going to create a more vibrant city for your own family. And I want to really encourage the women. You guys have been doing an amazing job from what I can see. Want to keep encouraging our brothers to just make that extra time to go get that stuff filled out.
All right. It's very important. You mentioned something about the census. The judge, I understand the Supreme Court brought something down today. I think y'all correct me if I'm wrong, but they said that the president can end the census right now, immediately. He can end the census taken right now, and he wants to do that now for obvious reasons. And so they can have whatever they're going to do, because what's going to happen is that's going to make it so there's extra money somewhere that they can use for other things and not give it to us. Well, we already know about, when we start talking about our children, education, the education, whatever she is, whatever her title is.
Secretary.
Thank you. Secretary of Education. Yeah. She's horrible. I mean, it's just horrible. And I'm not afraid to say it because these are basic things that you want to provide. Who wants to cut off the food program for the kids to get food in the morning? Why would you even look at that? Say, they got to have something to eat. Let's go somewhere else.
During a pandemic.
During the pandemic. Come on.
And that goes back to elections as consequences. And then there was another policy where I believe, I can't remember if it was Harvard or Yale, where the teacher used the N-word in class, I believe toward a student. And the university was going to take action against the teacher. But then the Department of Education came in and threatened to sue the school because the teacher was exercising their freedom of speech.
Wow.
And now that was kind of shocking. But it goes again that we have to think long term on the consequences of voting. I mean, we think about the election now, 2 years. But these appointments, these policies, they last for decades.
Yeah, just like they're ramming through a Supreme Court justice. You don't see that how it matters, but they're stacking it so because they've got the advantage right now, conservatives or liberals, if you want to call it that anyway. There is an advantage already, 5-3, but they're trying to make it 6-3 instead of waiting to have a impartial. It's just they don't care. And I heard somebody say the difference between Democrats and Republicans is Democrats try to win by the rules. Republicans don't care about the rules. They're just trying to win. And you don't have to reply to that, fella.
Yeah, our initiative is technically nonpartisan, so I can't.
Yeah, no, I'm just quoting what they said.
No, I'm not saying you're wrong.
I mean, I'm not one way or the other. I'm just quote. Just a quote. That's but we gotta at least do our civic duty and responsibility to vote. At least do that. We're not asking you to run for office. We're not asking you to do, but just vote first. Let's start there. Go ahead, Medvis.
And to Mr. Crowe's point, again, these have consequences. I don't know where you stand on healthcare access, right? I'll give you an example. The city of Cleveland has one of the highest, if not, I have to be corrected on this, but I think they have a municipality. They have the highest infant mortality rate in the industrial world, and it disproportionately affects African American babies and mothers. Part of the consequences is based on local state elections, right? Not state Senate, not U.S. Senate or U.S. Congress. It's their own state legislature. Their state legislature actually voted, because the party that was in power there voted to actually reject federal funding for the Medicaid the Medicaid program that would help low-income mothers. So again, when you're voting, you're not just saying that. When you're voting, you're not just saying I care about who's going to be commander in chief. It's also talking about I care about the prosecutor and their relationship to the police department, and are they going to give? Are they going to go make sure that the police department is conducting itself in a way that really not only keeps our community safe, but is going to be dignified, right? Are we allocating money in a way that my child or my nieces and nephews are going to get the best chance regarding parks and recreation and education? So I want to commend you all both for the work you've done, bringing us here together tonight, and also engaging the community, because folks like us who have the God-given talents and blessings to use our time and our resources to help along folks who may not have the time or may not put enough thought into all the ramifications of them just sitting it out.
Very good. Brother Crowe, McGee, the last word, then we got to move on to the next segment.
Okay. We don't, in L5, we don't endorse candidates, but we do endorse policies. And one thing, we are about community. And if we see a policy that's going to be adversely impact our community, then we're going to stand up and speak out. So that's what we need to do. We're supposed to be a community, and we're supposed to look beyond ourselves. So when you're voting, just don't think about how that policy is going to affect you. Think about how it's going to impact the people around you. Right. Because how can you sit down and enjoy your steak dinner, right, and your fellow man has an empty plate?
Come on, brother.
And take someone to the polls with you.
That's
right. Don't just say I'm good or I voted. Did that cousin vote that you haven't seen in a year and a half, right? Because of COVID. Did that classmate that you used to go play basketball with, did they vote? Take somebody with you. If you might say, well, I don't want to get people's business. The person in the White House during a pandemic is your business. The people who control your child's school funding, that's your business. And so if that friendship ends because you encourage them to vote, then you may want to question the quality of that friendship. But it is these next 4 weeks and these next 3 weeks, you need to be we need to be texting one another, offering rides, and reminding one another, hey, I'm going to hold you accountable for when you get to the polls.
Absolutely. Thank you, brothers. Man, you guys are wonderful. That's 3 words. Wonderful. Look at Brother Crowe's t-shirt. Black votes matter. A voteless people is a hopeless people.
I like that.
Yes, we want to roll to the polls. We want to make sure we vote. Thank you, brothers, for joining me. We look forward to talking to you again very soon, even before the election. And we got to move on to our next segment, which is on the got candidates here that are going to join us. That these are some of the local candidates here in Michigan. And we want, they wanted to be able to talk. We're going to let them say, I mean, we're not endorsing one way or another on this program, but these are two fantastic women, and they are contributors to the best place to live in Detroit, Michigan. So we have on the ballot Sister Chandra Baker, and she is an attorney and she's she's a candidate on the 3rd Circuit Court, and she's running for judge. And I'm not sure, there she is, look at her with her glasses on. This is great. Come on, unmute yourself so we can hear you talking. We're so glad that you're here. And, she's an excitable lady, and she's done quite a bit in our community. And we want to, she wants to have a talk and tell us what's at stake and what's important and what's going on. And she's going to come to us now. Sister Chandra W. Baker, come on.
Thank you very much, Superintendent Sheard. Thank you for
Yes.
having me.
Yes,
I'm
ma'am.
so excited to get an opportunity to speak to the voters. And yes, you are correct. I am running for Wayne County 3rd Circuit Court Judge. I have been practicing nearly 20 years now. I'm currently over the Wayne Arson Reduction Unit, which is a unit at the Wayne County Prosecutor's Office in which we handle crimes of individuals who've been killed or injured in an arson, or crimes in which individuals have basically used their property, their real property, for arson for profit crimes. And we know what those are like. Those are those businesses that are in the neighborhoods that they burn those businesses and they walk away with these 6-figure checks. Mm-hmm. And then we suffer the consequences of blight in our neighborhoods, as well as high insurance rates, as we know about. And it also reduces the property values. So those are the crimes that I handle for real property. I do not handle the car fires, insurance fires, or domestic violence arson cases. Mm-hmm. And so I've been doing that. I've been over that department since 2017. I've been there for 13 years. And prior to that, I practiced labor and employment discrimination with a law firm called Miller, Canfield, Paddock and Stone. And I did, again, labor and employment, and I was there for 5 years. And let's see, what else can I tell you?
Well, I have a question for you.
Sure.
Now, tell me, why should we vote for you? Okay. I mean, what makes you different from the rest?
Okay. Well, outside of the fact of being qualified, the court that I am running for is the court that I practice in. Okay. And I practice in this court for criminal as well as civil. At Miller, Canfield, Paddock and Stone, I did both state work as well as federal work. So I practiced in the 3rd Circuit Court in the civil division. So I've done both sides. The 2 positions that are available right now are 2 African-American judges that are aging out. And people may not know this, but after you turn 70, you can no longer sit on the bench. So in other words, if you're already on the bench, you can stay on the bench, but you cannot run again. So Judge Strong, who I'm sure everybody knows, is aging out, and Judge Ulysses Boykin, 2 African-American males. And so those are 2 seats that we're looking to fill. So the fact that I'm, first of all, qualified. Second, because it is my passion to make sure that my community is treated fairly. And a lot of people say, well, you're at the prosecutor's office. But what people have to realize is we have to be at the prosecutor's office. We have to be police officers. We have to be firemen. We say that we want these type of positions to make sure that there is someone standing guard there to make sure people are treated fairly. And then a lot of times when we get in these positions, then people vilify us for being in the positions. Yeah. But you need us there. I was a fair prosecutor, or still am, and I dealt with a lot of defense counsel, making sure that defendants were treated fairly, making sure that if we had other alternatives besides jail or prison, that's what we did. If they had a drug problem, we funneled them into the drug program or in the mental health program, or there's a diversion program if it's a crime that involved a monetary amount as opposed to having a record. What another issue, though, that is really close to my heart is mental health. Wayne County has become the leading provider of mental health services, the Wayne County criminal justice system. And that should not be. We have so many people in jail and in prison that have mental health issues. One of the cries about policing is that when some police officers arrive on scenes individuals may be threatening, they have knives or whatever they may have, or guns, but these people have mental health issues. And of course, police are trained because it's a threat to them. But having individuals who understand what's going on with this individual to try to diffuse the situation. I learned once I took over the Wayne Arson Reduction Unit that individuals charged with arson were not allowed into the state programs. And that was really disconcerting for me because most people, 75% of my defendants have mental health issues. Those are people that generally start fires. But I do understand that state-run facilities don't want individuals in their facilities that start fires because it's a liability issue for them. But we've got to find a place for them to go. And they can't, sometimes they can go back out on the street and they can do an outpatient program. But sometimes, depending on the severity of the crime, they can't. If someone has died in that fire, you're looking at prisonable time.
Wow.
And so now you're just going to prison and you're going to be medicated. And that's pretty much it. And what we need to do is find facilities that they can be secured in, but they can get help in. And so that's one of the programs that I want to work on. We do have mental health right now at Wayne County Third Circuit Court, but as I indicated, certain people are not allowed in. A judge started that program, Judge Kenny, who was the chief judge. So judges are instrumental in starting programs and being helpful to the community. I sat down with Judge Elizabeth Asano, who's a judge in Wyandotte. She's a district court judge. She said there wasn't a mental health program when she started, and she applied for a grant and received monies, and now there's a mental health program in Wyandotte. So that's something I'm looking at doing as well. So, judges can be effective in making sure that the community is getting what the community needs.
Well, it sounds like you care a little bit. And, people often say judges, once you get before the judge, it just depends on what kind of day that morning, what happened in the morning, whether or not you're going to end up in jail or go home. And but it sounds like, and I know, it's cliches they give to candidates and you're trying to get in the seat. But, you make me feel like you care about us not just being lumped together and thrown in jail, but us actually being attended to our specific needs across the board. And that's so very important because if we don't attend to it, there'll be repeat offenders and, you're trying to give them a chance, but you can't give them a chance in certain cases. And in the meantime, people are losing their lives because we haven't rehabilitated the people appropriately. That's the way I see it. Now, I'm not a judge, but maybe I should run for judge one day, but nah, not today. Not today. All right, this is your time. When you age out, I'll run.
When I age out, I think you'll be aged out.
Right. But I am so glad that you're here because, I've seen your posters around. I've seen your yard signs. I've seen you doing community active events. And I know a part of your history. Your voting is so very important. I would bring up an issue. I don't want to do that because people are sending me stuff, and I don't want to bring up issues. But I want us to understand how important it is because you made it on this ballot by running in the primary. Tell us a little bit about that.
That is correct. Depending on where you're running, depends on how many signatures. You have to collect signatures from registered voters in order to get on the ballot.
Okay.
And for Wayne County, which is a large county, there was 4,000 signatures that were required. And me coming from a church background, I was raised, as you know, church.
Come on, you can tell us. You can tell us.
Right. And a child of God. And I went back to my roots. I mean, I basically went to the church and asked them to support me, and they weren't endorsing me, but they gave me an opportunity to speak to people, and people wanted to sign, and they did. And I was able to get on this ballot even during a pandemic. Many people started out when I started out. And I just tell you, I believe that God has put me in this position at this particular time. And I was able to get the required signatures during the pandemic. Now, the governor was actually sued for individuals saying that, we shouldn't have to get this certain amount of signatures and the date should be extended because of the pandemic. And they won in court. And so the amount of signatures was cut in half. But I will tell you, I went to churches and, I did the Easter Market and I did other places like that. And you only had to have 2,000. I ended up turning in 4,600 signatures,
Wow.
3,200 of which I received from churches. I was challenged on this ballot. You know, I'm not going to say, you know, opponents challenge you. Sometimes they have other people challenge you.
Yeah.
But myself and another young lady was challenged on this ballot, trying to say that I had 1,000 signatures that were invalid. I knew better because I know church people vote and I know we're registered. And when the Bureau of Elections checked it, 90% of my signatures were good. So God was just really, really with me, because I will tell you, when the pandemic hit and the governor shut down the state of Michigan, I literally said, you know, Lord, did I get this wrong? Because it's a pandemic. Like, did you know a pandemic was coming?
Right.
But of course, he knew a pandemic was coming.
Sure.
But he allowed me to make it. And I came in third in the primary, 6,000 votes from the number 2 candidate. And I plan there can only be 2 winners this time. There are 4 of us that passed over into the general, and only 2 can win. It's got to be the top 2 vote getters this time. And so the top 2 vote getters were basically not of our community. So, you know, we're asking our community to get behind us.
Let's go.
So
let's go. Let's vote.
Yes.
If we vote, it's going to be easy. Let's get out there and vote. Listen, Judge Baker, Attorney Baker, listen, it's a pleasure to talk to you. We got another candidate coming on. I could just go on and on, because you're a pleasant person to talk to. And we pray that God will bless you during this election. And stay strong, keep your chin up, and let's keep going forward. But always remember that God is in control, and he's going to make this thing happen. If it's his will, he's going to make it happen. So we look forward to seeing you again. God bless you again. I like your glasses. They're nice. And we'll talk to you. Yes.
Thank you for having me. And if anybody else wants to look into my background, I am at bakerforblindjustice.com. That's the website.
Okay.
Baker for Blind Justice, or they can find me on Facebook at Chandra Baker for Judge.
We're going to put that up, and we're going to make sure everybody knows about it. And then we'll talk to you again. God bless you, and we'll see you next time.
All right.
We have another candidate that's coming on the ballot. She is no stranger to Detroit or to Michigan. She is running for the Detroit School Board, and she is the lady with the multiple name, and she's a wonderful lady. She is Sherry Gay-Dagnogo, and she's on our show tonight. And here she comes. Watch. Sherry Gay-Dagnogo. She's coming. Don't worry. She's a wonderful lady, and she's going to give you some information about the school board and why it's so important that she get on the school board. That she gets on the school board. And she's going to be with us in just a second. But I want to tell you, this has just been a delight to be able to come in this kind of forum, to be able to talk about how important voting is. You know, my brothers and sisters, we cannot lay down and just, let be carpet and be mats and doormats. We got to stand up and stand tall. And the way we do that is we encourage, there is my friend, we encourage one another to vote. And here she is, Sherry Gay-Dagnogo. Didn't I say your name right?
Close.
Oh, no. What? Say it for me.
Sherry Gay-Dagnogo.
Dagnogo.
Yes.
I got it forever now.
That's
How
right.
are you today?
I'm doing well.
Good.
Well. I feel blessed. I'm appreciative having the opportunity to come on and talk with you this evening. We had some very great guests on earlier, talk about some very important topics of getting out the vote. Got my map behind me over here.
Okay.
It's a map of the whole city of Detroit.
Okay.
So it's a lot of work.
Yes.
But we're up for the challenge, and we feel blessed.
Yeah. Well, you're a powerful woman. You've been in the state. You've been a state rep for. Give me your tenure.
It's 5 years and 10 months.
Okay. All right. So you're into the workings of what's going on in Michigan, and
Absolutely.
and then to make this move to go to the school board. Give us a little bit about you and why you made this move.
So 9.5 years working for Detroit City Council members, Alberta Tinsley, Talabi, and Clyde Cleveland. And then going into the classroom, I'm a former science teacher. I taught at DPS, taught at 2 charters as well, included David Ellis West. Then I worked in education preparedness at United Way. And end up going to the legislature to fight on behalf of quality education for all of our students. We realized that our schools have had a myriad of challenges, problems, but I always wondered, even working for city council, so why does Detroit lag behind many other cities, and why do we have systemic poverty? Why do we have blight and challenges? And so to me, the way to change that, my theory of change dealt with addressing our school system. And so in wanting to do that, I knew that you had to change the laws about education by actually going to the state or going to Congress. And so I've chose to go to the state. I've considered Congress, so maybe one day that will become a reality as well. But right now, it's my final term in the House. And so I'm coming back to what I love most. I went to the legislature during a time where DPS, which is now DPS-CD, legislation was in play to dissolve the old system and develop a new system. But most people don't realize that we're almost paying in our taxes for those who are Detroit residents in perpetuity for Proposal S, which was a proposition that matched dollars from the United States to build infrastructure in new schools, but also the money that we're paying into the old code, the debt, by the way, which was created under state control. So I'm an educator at heart, but I also understand the policies that continue to erode public education and make it difficult for our children to have a fighting chance, because if you keep piling debt on top of debt on top of debt, guess what? We're not going to have the type of resources that we need or the infrastructure that we need. I mean, sometimes we have a very short memory, but just think about not too long ago when we were dealing with 2016, the vermin in the buildings, the no heat in the buildings, lack of cold, lack of warm water in the buildings, then dealing with lead in the buildings.
Right.
So, I mean, now I get it that we have very old infrastructure, but that infrastructure, the dollars that were put forward on many of our villages in times past have been misappropriated, misused, and whenever you do that, you still siphon from the ability for our students to have a quality education.
That's right. That's right. Wow. I hear you. Now, this school board, there is some change. I mean, even with the pandemic, there is a lot of changes that had to be made because a lot of schools are doing at home schooling. My daughter is schooling at home, and that. I was one of the parents that said, "There's no way my daughter's going back to school," because it's not because I didn't trust her to do, what she had to do, but I wasn't sure about, the surroundings, her environment. I can't imagine sending my daughter into an environment I'm not sure about. How do you plan on dealing with moving into schools over this? When it's safe. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Thank you, no problem. So like you, unfortunately had to deal with a horrific loss of a family member, my sister.
Yeah,
I know you
mom too.
Yeah, I know, Mother Sheard, and I'm glad that I got a chance to see your mom, and we will always brag on each other and how much she liked to shop, and had a chance to see her. I think it was in March. February, March.
Okay.
over on Curtis. But yeah, so that, I mean, that was a huge loss. It was such a painful time. So I know firsthand what it's like to lose someone, and I know the seriousness of COVID-19. And although many of our children may be asymptomatic, I know the staff in our buildings and the families that they come home to would not be asymptomatic. And so that's one of the reasons how I got pulled into the conversation of addressing, once again, a crisis that teachers and paraprofessionals felt like they were having. And so the opening of schools, no brainer, it was very premature. Detroit had the highest rates of COVID anywhere in the state, and one of the highest in the nation. But yet we were first, or they were first, to reopen our schools, which to me was insulting with all of the loss that we experienced, and it was dangerous, and especially with many of our staff still very fearful with health concerns that many of them had. Some of which just decided, they would start retiring or, look for alternative employment. And that shouldn't be the case. There was a survey conducted. 80% of parents said no to face-to-face. 91% of the staff said no to face-to-face. So why were we rushing to do that? Now, we know that optimal learning, for most students occurs face-to-face, but we also know that our children are very resilient. And we know that they are tech babies. You give a baby your phone, a 2-year, 3-year-old, they will find games, buttons, functions.
Lock you out of your own phone.
that most adults don't even know exist on their phones.
Right.
So, children can learn, but we have to support them, and we have to want to support them, and we have to provide adequate professional development. So it was my desire to see the district remain virtual. There are some instances where essential workers need some type of care for their children. And so, learning centers, but learning centers that are equipped with teachers. We know that there are students who have physical and cognitive disabilities where parents need additional help. And so there are things that we can do for that as well. But for the most part, primarily virtual. And then after the flu season, ramping up to a hybrid model. And then after we clear and our numbers stay flattened for a duration, of more than a few months, then reopening slowly. So we don't, go back. So, you listen to a number of medical professionals who are fearful of what we're facing during the flu season, during the winter weather. We go through every year, unfortunately, because we're impacted by poverty, children who may be coming to schools without coats, children who are susceptible to cold and flu. So you have a number of things that have to be taken into consideration when it's not just, everything's perfect in this environment and it's just reopening schools. No, there are other factors that need to be addressed in addition to learning.
Well, I know one thing. If you're as fired up as you are as a state rep, I know that you're going to put this school board ablaze because they're not going to be able to get anything by you. And I've followed you for a long time, and I see all of your posts and everything. And you've been, you speak logically, and you speak, real to people that need assistance. Now, I say very often, I'm not necessarily voting for me, but I'm voting for my neighbors, people that are less fortunate than me. I can afford to do this, that, and the other with my daughter, but other people can't afford to do everything I do. And I realize that. I'm not flaunting it, but I want to be able to do and help things, boards and events to help them be able to progress as well. And we just need people that are fired up. Now, see if I can't endorse you, but I need people that are fired up, that will set this thing on fire, and it will make a difference for our children. Because I'm telling you right now, I'm not that smart, but I'll figure out a way to homeschool if I have to, because I ain't gonna sit there. Can you? Well, we don't want to talk about that, but because you've been through the loss, I had the loss. My dad and myself and my mom were all in the hospital at the same time.
Jesus.
Isn't that crazy?
Yeah, that's unreal.
It's unreal. I'm supposed to be trying to take care of my parents, taking them, and then I got sick, or vice versa. I don't know how. You see what I'm saying? This is what's crazy about this, and this is why, it would be different if we said, there it is right there. We grab it, we contain it, but we don't know where it is, and we don't know how we're getting it. So I just appreciate people that, let me say it like my dad says it, talk like they got some sense. So that's very important to us. And, we just love this fellowship. And anytime you want to come by the Greater Mitchell, you're welcome to come. Give us that education that we need. And then let me ask you one more question. I'm going to let you go. I asked the last candidate this. What makes you special that we should vote for you?
Preparedness. I'm a person of faith as well, and started out at Pastor Fudge Church, so raised the Church of God in Christ as well. Mm-hmm. But being prepared, taking time to study and understand the issues that are impacting my community. I'm a servant leader. Mm-hmm. I'm an educator, a licensed professional educator with pedagogical competency. I know how people learn. I know how children learn. I understand systems. I have a master's in instructional technology, which is a study that looks at systems, find gaps and flaws, and find ways to address them for systemic change. So that's what my leadership about. I have served as a community organizer with the faith community, with the civic community, with the labor community, and so. This is who I am. And it's going to take someone who has relationships in several sectors to move our district forward. In addition to teaching and serving in the community and being an advocate, I have legislative experience. I have learned how to negotiate, even in a Republican environment, how to pass legislation and how to bring money home. Under Governor Snyder, I was able to get $1 million to our city, not just for my district, but to address literacy, to address putting STEM in schools, and to address now expungement reform in a bill package that was just passed yesterday. I'm so proud to be the only Black woman part of that package that will now set men and women free, not just in the city of Detroit, but across this state, for charges that would now be considered legal. So having those relationships, having that experience, having a demonstrated track record of success and effectiveness, and being connected to everyday people, that makes me the right and only candidate for the Detroit School Board.
There it is. There it is. Man, I greatly appreciate you coming on the show. You always had a big smile and you're full of life, and we thank God for you. We're going to be praying for you. We want you to remember, just like I told Sister Baker, God is in control. He knows what he's doing. Although we don't understand, there's your website. It's right there, votesheard.com. And we are encouraging you to stay strong, and we'll see you next time. God bless you, and thank you again for coming on to the show.
Thank you. Just remember, you don't have to vote for 3. Just vote for me. VoteSherry.com.
That's great. All right. God bless all of you that have joined us. And we thank you again for coming on. This has been a tremendous event for us to be able to talk to you, come right into your living rooms and talk to you about voting. I'm just as passionate now as when I started this program. You must get out and vote. It's so very important. We only vote once every 2 years. In the midterms, we got to vote. We got to vote. Listen, don't worry about how often it is, but make sure we voted. If you want more information about voting, the website is on the bottom of the screen there. Go Register, make sure you're registered and vote. If you don't know how or where you're supposed to vote, you can go to the website. It'll give you the information you need. You can put your name and information in, and it'll give you the information to direct you to the place. Now, again, we want you to remember to vote early. You've got to vote early. Don't wait to the last minute. Please, no procrastination. Go vote early. When you go, you can either vote early in person or you can vote early absentee. Now, for those of you that are mailing your ballots in, you only have until Friday to mail them in. Then after Friday, you can deliver them to the Department of Elections. And there are drop boxes all over the city that are approved by our Department of Elections, Sister Janice Winfrey. So there are no excuses. Now, if you're going to vote in person, you can vote early in person. You might have to stand in line. So we want to make those lines flow quickly. In order to do that, go to the website and you can print out a copy of your ballot and study it from home. And once you go through it at home, make your selections at home, do your homework, ask questions, get the information, decide how you're going to vote, then take that with you when you go to vote in person. And then that will make the line go faster, because when you get to the box to actually vote, you can just mark off your selections because you selected them at home. Now, we want to take into consideration even the person that's standing behind us. So the quicker we're able to get in and get out, that'll make for people that had to come from work and they're tired, if we can make it as easy for them to vote as possible, it's going to be great. Also, for those of you that need a ride to the polls, you can get to the polls on election day with Roll to the Polls with Brother Medvis Jackson. There's a number there that you can call and we can line up rides for you to get to the poll. This is such a great idea to make sure everybody gets to the poll. You don't have an excuse not to go. You don't have to ride the bus. You can call Roll to the Polls. And it's so very important that we vote, not just on the presidential election, but every area and voting on the policies that they bring. And so it's very important. Don't be fooled and made to think that your vote doesn't count, because every vote counts, and we're looking forward to a big turnout. So far, Brother Gilbert told us that there's over 200,000 people trying to vote, where there was only a few thousand before, and they're asking for these ballots. When you get your ballot, make sure you guard it like it's $1,000 bill. It's that important, because we're voting on different things that will affect us for probably the rest of our lives. And so we cannot be left out. We can't sit at home and say, whatever. No, time out for that. I don't care who you are. I don't care who you are. Get out and vote. Get registered and vote. Everybody has to vote. I know I'm saying it over and over again, but it's so very important that we remember that everybody's got to vote. Your life is going to depend on it. How you progress going forward is going to depend on it. And you're not just voting for yourself. Remember, you're voting for your neighbors. You're voting for your parents. You're voting for your children. And you know you love your children. You want to take them into consideration in whatever you do and say. And so we're going to pray at the end of this. We're going to pray. We want everybody to come together and our city to be strong. We're going to pray through COVID. COVID will not stop us from exercising our right to vote. If they couldn't stop us when they were beating us and hanging us and burning our houses, they're not going to stop us with this disease. We got to vote. And then you see some websites on there for Baker for Blind Justice. That's for Judge Baker. But we are trying to get you to the polls. Let me just read these statistics one more time. In Michigan, the difference between the two candidates was 11,000 votes. And in Detroit alone, 277,000 of you did not vote. That can never happen again. This is the time where we've got to make the difference. This is the time where we've got to flood the election, the Board of Elections, and cast our vote. If it rains, snow, sleet, we got to be like the mailman. Rain, snow, or sleet will not stop us from voting this year. God bless you all. I'm going to just give a brief prayer. Dear Heavenly Father, we thank you again for joining us and giving us the insight and foresight to pull your people together. We pray God's blessings upon every family that's represented, for everybody everywhere. We're asking, Lord, that you keep us in the center of your will and guard and protect us, Lord. And we're asking that we bind us together in unity, and drive the devil out and drive this virus away that's taken so many of our loved ones. And we give you the praise and we give you the glory in Jesus' name. Amen. God bless you all. And we want you to know that here at Greater Mitchell, where our pastor is the pastor, Bishop John H. Sheard, he is our legendary man of God. And we're saying this, that we have the favor of God over our life. God bless you, and we'll see you again next time.